The following is a compilation of every single critical question that Lester Holt asked Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton.
Let me follow up with Mr. Trump if I can. You've talked about creating 25 million jobs, and you promised to bring back millions of jobs for Americans. How are you going to bring back the industries that have left this country for cheaper labor overseas? How specifically are you going to tell American manufacturers that you have to come back? We're still on the issue of achieving prosperity, and I want to talk about taxes. The fundamental difference between the two of you concerns the wealthy.
Now, take a listen to what happens next. Notice how Lester Holt frames the question by first saying that Hillary Clinton's tax plan calls for tax increases on the wealthy, and then he says, and Trump, your plan calls for tax decreases, tax cuts on the wealthy, which inherently implies that Trump is benefiting the rich and Hillary Clinton is going after the rich to benefit the poor, even though what Trump is really calling for is tax cuts across the board, major tax cuts that save people in all income brackets money.
Secretary Clinton, you're calling for a tax increase in the wealthiest Americans. I'd like you to further defend that. And Mr. Trump, you're calling for tax cuts for the wealthy. I'd like you to defend that. And this next 2-minute answer goes to you, Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump, we're talking about the burden that Americans have to pay, yet you have not released your tax return. Don't Americans have a right to know if there are any conflicts of interest?
I don't mind really.
The IRS says an audit of your taxes, you're perfectly free to release your taxes during an audit. And so the question, does the public's right to know outweigh your personal?
Well, I told you, I will if she releases her
So it's negotiable? He also raised the issue of your emails. Do you want to respond to that?
So this question about Hillary's emails is the first critical question that Holt asks Hillary. But notice how Lester said, quote, he mentioned your emails. Do you want to respond to that? The only reason Lester brought up Hillary's emails right then and there is because Donald Trump brought it up. So we can't even be sure that Lester even planned to ask her any questions about the email scandal. So even though it's hard to even say that Lester planned to ask her that question, we're going to go ahead and give one critical question asked to Hillary Clinton.
Your 2 minutes expired, but I do want to follow up. Stop and frisk was ruled unconstitutional in New York because it largely singled out Black and Hispanic young men.
No, you're wrong. There are many places.
The argument is that it's a form of racial profiling.
No,
So, Mr. Trump, for 5 years, you perpetuated a false claim that the nation's first Black president was not a natural-born citizen. You questioned his legitimacy. In the last couple of weeks, you acknowledged what most Americans have accepted for years: the president was born in the United States. Can you tell us what took you so long?
I'll tell you.
I'll let you respond. That's important, but I just want to get the answer here. The question is, what changed your mind?
Nobody was.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to follow up, and I will let you respond to that because there's a lot there. But we're talking about racial healing in this segment. What do you say to Americans?
Well, it was very. I say nothing. I say nothing.
Mr. Trump, a lot of these are judgment questions. You had supported the war in Iraq before the invasion. What makes your?
I did not support the war in Iraq. I was against the war in Iraq. Just so you put it out.
The record shows otherwise.
The record does not show that.
Why is your judgment
The record shows that I'm right.
But my question was, why is your judgment any different than Mrs. Clinton?
Well, I have.
Earlier this month, you said she doesn't have, quote, a presidential look. She's standing here right now. What did you mean by that?
You treated him with terrible disrespect. So when you try to act holier than thou, it really doesn't work. It really doesn't.